Well, I'm super excited that my girl LM is joining us today. Welcome, LM.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, thank you for being here. And I'm just super excited that I have, one friend in the Colorado Springs area who I can talk to about all things spirituality and awakening and everything like that. So I'm super excited to have you here today.
Yes, for
Aw-
sure.
Awesome, girl. Well, I would love to know, how did your spiritual awakening start, or when did it start, and how did you become aware of what was happening? Give me all the good deets.
Okay. I'll try to be succinct as possible, but include relevant information. So I I grew up, as many of us do, I feel like, in a very strict religious background, Pentecostal church. My mom was naturally the black sheep of her family and then was attracted to another black sheep in a different family. But at the time, she was born in the 50s. She fell in love with a black man, interracial marriage. Her family disowned her, blah. So that shoved her from California out to the East Coast, where I was brought up largely inside this Pentecostal upbringing. And the whole time, I think it felt just very off. And through that time, my mom decided not only was she a black sheep in the way of being attracted to a man, she also decided she was going to come out at the age of 36 and she was going to marry a woman. So that was a whole different gamut. And this is relevant because the partner that she got with, the first serious female partner, her name was Barbara. And she was my introduction to spirituality in all of its glory. And I was 11 years old at the time, which I guess 11 years old, that's serendipitous in and of itself.
Right.
But she was basically kind of undoing all of the work that the Pentecostal church did in the best way, I think, and really opening the doors to metaphysics, to angels, to intuition, to all of these things that I didn't really know about previous. So I think I was always laced with this element of understanding spirituality.
Okay.
Um, but then it wasn't, and I'm trying to think about it now because I would say 2016 is when I went through a deep awakening. But if I'm now reflecting back on it, it really it was like a drip campaign
Yeah.
from the age of 11 from
Right.
the age of 11 until my mid 20s. But what I'm really now just recollecting is 2014 is really when it started to hit pretty heavy.
Oh,
And what I mean by that is, I mean, I lived out in I moved all over the place, moved out to the East Coast, moved out to the West Coast, finally found myself in Denver. And I moved to Colorado Springs, northern Colorado Springs at the time, 2014, and I suffered bouts of sleep paralysis every single night
wow.
in 2014, which I don't know if people know what sleep paralysis is. There's a lot of different scientific people out there that might say it's something else. What I experienced felt demonic, right? There's really no other way to slice it. And it just got to the point where I was petrified to go to sleep. And that continued on for about a year into 2015, where we then moved from northern Colorado Springs to old Colorado City, which I don't know if you know this or anybody else, but apparently there's like a vortex.
I have heard of it. Yes, I've heard of
Yeah,
the old. Yes.
in OCC. And so, of course, we moved into this duplex. We were living at the top unit at the time, and apparently a man took his life inside of the duplex. We didn't know that. That was not disclosed to us.
Gosh.
But the series of hauntings that happened from 2015 to 2016 really attributed to this whole
Wow.
awakening era, as it were.
Okay, so sleep paralysis. Can you explain like what that felt like for the people that don't understand that?
Yeah. So with sleep paralysis, it basically feels, and I don't know if people have fallen asleep and you're almost like you're consciously awake, but you cannot speak, you cannot yell, you cannot move your body, you can't do anything, like you're paralyzed,
Hmm.
but you're consciously aware.
Yes.
So in its most infant form,
Okay.
it just feels like I'm aware and it freaks me out that I'm aware, but I can't do anything with my body. And I have to mentally be strong enough to get myself out of it. The
Whoa.
sleep paralysis that I experienced felt like there were black figures holding, I could, it's like you can't even open your eyes. But when I was able to, like, like when your eyes are like flickering or fluttering because you're trying to wake up, it just got to the point where I could open my eyes just a little bit and it was
Mhm.
flittering and I could just see black figures holding down my legs and my arms.
Wow.
And then there was something that felt like it was like pressing on my chest where I could barely breathe kind of
Terrifying.
situation. So it was pretty intense.
Yes.
Right. And again, this was through most of 2014.
Did it
So
feel
it's,
like it lasted a long time?
I mean, inside of it, it felt like
Yeah.
it lasted
Yeah.
forever, but
I would
I'm sure it
imagine.
was only probably a few minutes.
Oh my gosh. But what a terrifying way to wake up.
Yeah. If you
Like you
could get,
can't, yeah.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
similar to what like the people that are in coma say when they can like but
Yeah,
you're not in a
absolutely.
coma, so it's like very concerning, I imagine, that it's happening so frequently. Okay. And so then you go on to move to the new place and you have ghosts or spirits.
Right. So there was a gentleman, he was a middle-aged male, and I think he had a drug problem. And again, this was not disclosed to us. This was the information that I got downloaded as a result
Oh,
of
okay.
cohabitating with this individual.
Okay. So he communicated that to you. You asked him, or yeah, you were trying to figure out what's going on.
I don't even think I asked him. I think it was just
He's like,
like,
"You're at my house, bitch."
right. Yeah, like yeah. It kind of felt like that.
Okay.
Um, and I had, and I was very immersed in the spiritual community at that time in my life. So I had a lot of different spiritual people come in and out, and they would always pick up on something. So it was paired with me getting downloads about the person and then having friends come into the space saying, "Hey, did you know that there's like this old man hanging out?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And so they would pick up on different little
Okay.
clues, bits of information about him and his story.
Okay.
And so he was not he was not a very nice spirit. He seemed very deeply unsettled. And then not only that, I think there was also a vortex in not the room we were staying in. So this was a 3 bedroom, 1.5 bathroom apartment duplex, right? We're on the top level. And the guest room, or what we dubbed as the guest room, had a ton of activity. And I think that's also where he might have passed. I'm
Okay.
not sure.
Yeah.
Um, but either way, there's a ton of energetic crossover. And I mean, I saw like ET spirit looking things. And my mom, she's also a very spiritual person, as you can imagine. And she had her own experiences because she stayed with us for a period of time and she could recall certain things and doors slamming, lights going off, fire alarms going off, like you name it, weird, crazy shit,
I have
constant.
full body chills going on right now. I'm just like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
so were you like wanting to move out? Did it scare you, or were you just knew? You're like, I'm not scared. Maybe did he not cross over? Did he just feel like he still was on? Do people know? Did you feel like he knew he was dead?
I feel like I feel like he knew.
Okay.
I don't feel like he crossed over and
Yeah.
I was petrified.
Okay. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was petrified. I was by myself a lot of the time because that was the first year that Annie, my wife, deployed. And I was by myself in this place for months with
But
our
actively by
animals.
yourself, which is frightening. You have a uninvited guest. Yeah.
Uninvited guest. And then on top of that, I went through this process because my mother's partner, who I'd mentioned, she
Mm,
passed in 2016 from lung cancer.
okay.
And that was during that time, and I was in Florida, that I had my first real intense bout of clairvoyancy.
Okay.
And
Wow.
so when that happened, I feel like it opened up all this stuff. And then when I finally came back to Colorado, I just kept seeing things in this same space,
Right.
right? And it was everything from angels to orbs to ETs and everything else in between,
Wow.
right? So it was all of this stuff paired with this ghost, paired with, and I also have multiple sclerosis bonus, so we're stacking now.
Okay.
So I had one of the worst bouts of an MS relapse at that time.
How old were you then?
And I was, God bless America, I was 26.
Okay.
No, nope, nope, nope. I was 29.
Okay.
Um, I was 29.
And when did
And
you get diagnosed? Sorry. When
oh
did
no,
you?
it's okay. I was diagnosed in 2009.
Okay.
So I had it for quite a bit at that point. And that's its own journey I could get into, but I
Yeah.
think it's all pretty relevant. And anyway, it's just stacking. So I was going through a really bad MS bout. My spouse was deployed. I was in a haunted space.
Mhm.
My clairvoyancy decided to come to full fruition, dealing with all this stuff. And then I'm just a deeply feeling and emotional person on top of it, right? So I'm trying to process all of this
Okay.
while experiencing these things in real time. And
Wow.
it was an intense time.
That sounds so intense. And so are you talking to a lot of people about it? Because you said you were surrounded by a spiritual community.
Yeah, I was in deep need of community
Yeah.
and deep need of direction. I felt very lost for
Yes.
a very, very long time. I think I was just grasping at anything to help me find answers to
Yes.
what was going on. And so I grabbed onto some right people, I grabbed onto some wrong people, but in that whole process, I was figuring myself out, figuring my
Right.
gifts out. And, now I can say I'm 40 now,
Right.
right? So now I can comfortably say, I know what feels right to me. I know who I'm going to gravitate toward. At that time, I was younger, I
Right.
did not know anything. And so I think I just opened myself up to everybody until
Yes.
I kind of found my way.
Absolutely. You and I can relate on that level. You are so like overwhelmed with what's happening and sometimes feels a little bit lonely because you're
Oh
figuring
yeah,
out which friends can walk with you, which ones should not, which ones are being helpful, which ones might potentially be harmful, not even
yeah,
intentionally. And so it can feel like a really lonely place to be for sure.
1000%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then so what was your wife thinking? Was she going through similar things? Did she, I mean, was she like, oh my gosh, there's ghosts? Was she like all for it? Was she all in with you?
She was in a different state. I feel like she was in a different chapter of her journey.
Yeah.
She also grew up very, very religious, like
Hmm.
again, most of us do. Hers was in the realm of Christianity. Excuse me. She bared witness
Okay.
to my journey, and she tried to support me the best way that she knew how to do, but she definitely did not have the same experiences. And as I tell people who we are as a couple, because the older we get and the further we go along in this journey of life, right, on this timeline, I'm understanding who we are to one another. And she's always been the person she's the tuning fork. She's a constant and she's the protector. So, because I'm so sensitive, because I pick up on all these things that maybe she doesn't necessarily pick up on, she knows how to bring me back down to center. She knows how to balance the energy or help me rebalance the energy, give me perspective, and protect me at the same time. I didn't understand that then. I was very frustrated because, like you said, I
Right.
feel like I'm out here by myself.
Yeah.
Can't talk to anybody, or
Right.
it's hard to find people. And so I wanted it to be her, but it just wasn't, and it didn't need to be, and it shouldn't have been. That's not her way, and that's okay. And I think as we get older in our journey, we understand that maybe our partners stay with us and they perform differently than we do, or they're meant for something different. Maybe our partners don't stay with us and they're only meant to be in our life for a season, and maybe it mutates over time too. So we just have to be, I think we just have to go through the ebb and flow of things. We have to be mutable respectively. And I think that's a lot harder for some of us, and probably in the beginning too, because you think that I think in the beginning of going through an awakening, it's very easy to let your ego seep in. It's
Yeah.
very easy to say, oh, I'm special. These people don't know. I know, and
Yes.
I feel like I'm a chosen one or something like this. I think that took over quite
Yes.
a bit, at least with some people that I even talked to. They're just like, "Oh, well, we're chosen," and I'm like, What?"
Exactly. I know.
I'm
Yeah.
just like, no, and at first you're romanticized with it. You're like, oh, well, we're chosen. Well, that's fucking dope. What does that mean?
Yeah.
And
Yay me. I'm so
then
special. I know. Trust me, I'm with you too.
until you lean into it more and you're like, shit, I did not want to sign up for this, but here we
Right?
are.
But here
Um,
we are. Yes.
but
So,
no, but then as you get older through it, you're just like, no,
yeah.
everybody is capable. They
Hmm.
just have to open themselves up to it. And most of the time, if some of us go through it sooner than others, we're here with a responsibility to guide, to teach,
Yes.
to shepherd, right? And I think that's a chosen, like,
Right.
I don't think it's about like being a chosen one necessarily. I think that we were just given a certain role to, and we signed up for this role
I
so
know.
we could guide
Yeah.
like others. Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And so you feel that it's expanding. Do you feel like the collective is starting to wake up?
Oh God, yes. I mean, I wasn't sure if people had heard of this person or not, if they watch Gaia, if they don't, but Mateos de Stefanos. Have you heard of this
I
guy?
just recently found him. Amazing.
Okay. He, you want to talk about transforming your perspective. This this man did in a way that was very unsuspecting, and this is like all the stuff leading through, post awakening, as
Yeah.
it were. I mean, I think there was a lot of stuff that leads up to this big apex of the thing, but I truly feel like the awakening, it always happens. We just maybe we're not aware of it. We're not
Yeah.
conscious of these
Yeah.
things. But anyway, since my understanding of when it all started through now, right, Mateos was just such an interesting individual who has the amazing ability to recall all of his past lives and kind of piecing them together in a way that makes total sense. And he breaks everything down through dimensions: first dimension, second dimension, third dimension, and so on. And
Right.
when we talk about the upheaval of a collective, and we talk about really going through it from a human perspective, as the human having a human experience, a soul having a human experience. When we go through things like 2020, when we go through even, all the political friction that we're going through right now and what we're uncovering as a collective,
Yes.
it it has such a deeper and higher spiritual meaning, even beyond what the elites or the 1% are thinking,
Yes.
right? This has to do with an entire planetary ecosystem that is energetically leveling up. And the only way to do that is through massive, intense change and shifts. A lot of it is degrading, a lot of it is disturbing, a lot of it feels deeply unsettling. But
Yes.
it has to,
Yes.
because what would we do otherwise? It's so easy to
Yes.
go back into the pattern,
Oh,
to
absolutely.
back into how we can't wait to go back to how things used to be.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
that's not the point.
No. It's yeah,
So
meant to be uncomfortable for a reason. I mean,
correct.
yes.
And
And
he just helped me reframe that completely, like allows me to understand, even in the midst of my human feeling around all of it. I'm
right.
like, but we have to.
Is
And this is why. So
so do you believe that I mean, I've heard some people's content where they think the world is taking on a whole new form and it's going to shift into two different worlds based off of where your vibrations are. Does that feel real to you?
it does. I just don't think it looks like how some people
Right.
are thinking.
Yeah.
I think that there are two subsets of people,
Mhm.
I guess, to the point I was just trying to make, where people are so committed to living life how
Mhm.
they've always known life to
Yes.
be, and wanting to cling on to that so hard
Yeah.
because it's uncomfortable
Yeah.
to be on the other side, right? It's uncomfortable to be on that, the duality of it, on the opposite side. But truthfully, this is where we're headed. It's where we're going, like
Yes.
it or not,
Yes.
right? And so it's really having peace and grace with the changes. And I
Mhm.
think that is where a lot of people, like you and I, like people who are jumping on the bandwagon now, if not earlier, who might maybe have a different understanding enough where we can, help
Yeah.
usher in this new wave, this new earth, right? Because
Yes.
it is meant to be this way. And the duality that we're experiencing, the two ways of living, is we're so committed to this way, and you're going to experience a lot of discomfort and a lot of friction,
Mhm.
ironically enough, because you're so committed to staying this way.
Yeah.
Versus over here, we're going with it. We have to. We're going to adapt. We're going to figure it out, and then we're going to pave the way
Yes.
for those who are slow to evolve, I guess.
Yes, yes, I believe that 1,000%. The interesting thing is that since I've started my, Claire Diaries page, I've had, my cousin just reached out, my one of my male cousins, and he said, "Oh my gosh, I'm dying to talk to you. I'm going through something similar." And two other girlfriends, one I went to high school with, one I met through a mutual friend, both reached out and said, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy. I'm also awakening." And so it's allowing other people who maybe not have verbalized it yet start to look at this like, oh, maybe this isn't so scary. Maybe I'm not so alone. And maybe we are brought all together at this time, because like we all have our different situations, our own traumas that may have prevented us from understanding what's happening or from feeling and coming
Yeah.
home to ourselves. But the fact that it's happening at similar times with so many of us is, to me, just a huge sign that we are meant to help fight the darkness right now, and show people the way. And it sucks and it's hard and it feels awful at times, but it's also the most beautiful and rewarding and amazing feeling in the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I love that you just described it that way because it
Yeah,
is that.
it
It
is.
feels so counterintuitive, but it's
Yes.
like that's literally what it is. It's like
Yeah.
the most awful, amazing, beautiful, frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And like, and one day I'm like crying and the next day I'm like, yeah, it's a beautiful day.
that's part of that's how you know, in my opinion, when you
Yes.
feel this like roller coaster,
Yes.
that's the awakening. It's not like, you get over guruism. On the other side, it's like rainbows and butterflies, and I'm totally at peace, and we're living in like a Buddhist state. That is not what it is. It's constant cognitive dissonance. It's
Yes.
constant like what the is going on. I don't understand. I think people are gonna if I say any of this out loud, people are gonna think I'm crazy.
Right. Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's, and that does happen. I've recently experienced that when you put yourself out there like that. People, one woman told me that I had psychosis and that I was spreading lies and what I was doing to them was very harmful. She just saw one of my videos, and so I was like, back in the day, that would have really upset me, you know?
Right. And that's the thing too. I think that's also the hard part is just allowing people to be where they are. I believe that there is a streamline. It almost looks like a golden line. Like there's a streamline of truth that you can feel. And we're constantly, so if you think about it as like a line, right? This is functioning as the line, and we're constantly going above and below it, trying to find our way. And in my search, it's just constantly trying to get as close to that line as possible in my understanding of truth. And in essence, whether people are conscious of it or not, and I'm getting downloads even now as I speak to you in real time because there's just
Interesting. Okay.
how it goes. But even with the atheist, it's her truth.
Yes.
Atheism,
Yeah, absolutely.
Christianity,
Yep.
Catholicism.
Yep.
And I believe that there's truth inside of everything, right? That whole coexist
Yes.
element. And for us as independent soul beings having our own independent human experience, the point is that we need to find those elements of unity that can connect us on this line.
Absolutely. I
And
love
I wish people like that weren't so dedicated to their own
it.
story
Story.
that they
Yes.
that they could that they could break open the element or realm of possibility and just to get curious enough to have a conversation, because that's how I think we get here.
I have full body chills. That confirms that. That's absolutely like
Yeah,
just hear what we have to say. Don't judge it. Be open minded.
right.
That's what I
I'm
told
not
her.
I'm
I said,
not trying to sell you on it,
that's what I
right?
said. So I'm not listen, I'm not judging you on why you are an atheist. I'm sure you have I said, if you don't like my page, start your own page to explain what happened to you to
Yeah,
make you an atheist. And then you can gain your own following. I said, but I'm not judging you. So don't come at me and tell me that I'm lying.
right.
Like there's a better way we can have this conversation. I'm willing to have it. I'm willing to have hard conversations, but don't come tell me that my story's fake and I'm lying. Like that's not the way to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
totally get that. Well, I'm
exactly.
glad. So that's in your own growth, though. I'm glad that it didn't like shut you down like it would
Right?
have before, right? You're just like
Exactly.
you can see it, and
Yeah.
you're like, I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, I'm strong enough that that little thing doesn't matter to me, and those are the things I'm gonna have to face probably moving forward even more so. So I know that that's why I went through some of the tests that I went through. That you're very well aware of that of what I've gone through, and it's been shitty and sucky and sad and hard. But at the end of the day, I'm like so freaking thankful that I am where I am, and that I
Yeah.
have people like you who I can talk to because a lot of people are too scared to even bring this up because of their backgrounds, or anything like that. So you
Yeah.
had clairvoyance come on first. What did that look like for you?
I was sorry, I'm just
No, I'm
the
excited
funny thing,
just by that
funny
laugh.
thing is with all this stuff, no matter how far back it goes, I can recall it like it happened yesterday.
Yeah.
It's so like it's like a tattoo in my brain. It's crazy. So
Yes.
I I was with my mom. I was out in Florida. I was with my mom, and we were staying at a hotel that was connected to the hospital. Barbara, her late partner, who I was talking about, who was my teacher through all of it, she she was going through treatments at the
Hmm.
time, and and then of course I was undergoing so much stress that I suffered another exacerbation while I was out there.
Okay.
And I went partially blind because MS can attack your optic nerves,
Mhm.
right? So I was going through all this stuff, and which is really interesting to talk about it now because it's like I had clairvoyance where I could see out of these two eyes, but
Wow.
not this one. It was so crazy.
Wow.
So it was during that whole craziness going on, and we weren't sure what was happening, blah. Go to bed at the hotel, and I felt like I was jolted awake and my eyes shot wide open in real time. And I saw this like warrior guy. He looks like the Mayan warrior.
Mhm.
And I have pictures, and maybe you can add a picture in here. It's like
Okay.
literally with the big mouth and
Okay.
the
Yeah.
staff and like open chest, and he had like a garb thing around his midsection, and he just almost looked angry, right? And I kept like blinking, like, oh my God, like,
Am I am I awake or is this a dream?
yeah. And because I was, it's that in
Wait.
between phase, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I keep blinking and shaking, and he's just like in my face, like he's like, I'm really here, like, hello. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what? I'm like, what do you want? Oh my God. It was very abrasive, but I
Yeah.
feel I am that person
Yeah.
anyway. Like you're gonna have to
You have to, it has to come in forceful for you to notice or something. Like that's how I feel like it is for me. It's like I gotta like poof, slap you on top of the head to make you realize.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
some of us are like, we're just gonna have to really hit you over the head with this. So
Exactly.
that's exactly what it was. That was my
Okay.
very first
Wow.
that I can recollect,
But
right?
you like, but it looked like, I mean, it looked clear, like it was a real person in front of you.
Yes, I mean it wasn't
It
a
wasn't
lot of
like an image
times
in your head. It was like you saw it.
I saw it,
It-
and it looked like I'm trying to, like, if I were to look in real time, you know how like when we look directly in sunlight and then
Mhm.
we enter a dark room and you
Yes.
can see
Yes.
like the image of the light. It's kind of like that, except
Okay.
there's more detailed outline. And I always say it almost looks like sepia.
Okay.
Like that's how it looks for me.
Yeah.
And it's been very rare occasions where I see clairvoyantly and it actually looks like a full, like colorful photo. I think that's only happened
Mhm.
a few times, less than a handful,
Okay.
where most of the visions look like almost transparent,
Okay.
and they have a sepia like background. But yeah, I
Okay.
mean, in my face, clear as day, almost like on top of me. That was my first experience.
So do you find like that your beginning experiences had to be more loud because we're so like so quickly able to be like push it aside if it's not something massive that like hits us in the head, because I felt like I had major like huge things happen, and then the longer I go the more subtle everything is, the more like it's less dramatic, my visions are, the owl doesn't have to fly and hit me anymore. Like,
It was awesome, dude. That was so cool.
but they're like, here, you're not noticing, so I'm going to fly down and swoop, so hit you in the shirt and then hang out with you on the rooftops. So
So awesome. I love that experience that you
right?
had.
I know.
Yes, to
Yeah.
answer your question,
Yeah.
um, unless we welcome it, right? Some people really
Right.
welcome it, but I was not in that space.
Right.
It was more like this is the time now. Wake it up.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And so anyway, yeah, it just felt like a lot more abrasive, a lot more dramatic, a lot louder.
Yes.
Until I woke up to that essence of myself, I think. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you talked about downloads, which I'm still trying to figure out exactly how they work, because I've heard people say that they like you had a download. So you felt the exact download at the exact time it's happening. Like you
Yes.
understood it. So for me, I feel like I don't know if it's when my ears are buzzing at night. Like I don't know when I'm getting downloads, and I don't even know that I'm getting downloads until somebody says something and I just know that it's true. Do you know what I mean? So then I'm like, well, And I just know it deep down. I'm like, how do I know that's so true? So is that would that be getting a download that I'm just not aware of it? Or is that just me coming home? Do you think already, that we all have this within us? We all have these knowings because, we're all souls that have been around for, years and years and years, or like how did
Yeah.
downloads, do you know?
Um, I think I know, right? Do you know? How do we? I think it happens. I think it manifests and shows up differently for a lot of us.
Okay.
I think when people are very attuned, a really good example of this is Megan from Solar Glow with
Okay.
the dowsing rods.
Yeah, the go route.
Might
Okay.
want to drop her information for reference because I think she's absolutely phenomenal. I've
Yeah.
seen her in person and I follow her on
Okay.
Instagram, and it's just absolutely amazing. She's gotten very clear about who she's communicating with, and she'll verbalize it,
Okay.
right? And she'll actually call them in on purpose
Hmm.
through through a channeled or meditative state. And I think for her, it might show up like clairaudience, but the
Hmm.
tonality sounds a little bit different. I know that that's Archangel Michael because,
Yeah.
right? And when I'm trying to recollect through other people's experiences as well. And especially for those who are inside of mediumship, which I know this is kind of turning into your wheelhouse a bit
Right.
too. But
Yes.
when I talk about downloads for myself,
Hmm.
for me, it looks like claircognizance, which I
Okay.
believe you're alluding to, where I just have this deep sense of knowing and I
Yeah.
don't know how I know. And if
Right.
someone was going to try to trace back scientifically through
Yeah.
time to figure it out, it's
Right.
more like a quantum theory or
Okay.
quantum physics
Right.
element. Because when I talk about things with such verve and passion, I don't feel like it's always me. I feel like I'm channeling some element of a higher power. So whether that's an angel, whether that's an ancestor, whether it's my higher self, I don't know that I'd be able to tell you the difference personally. For
Yes.
me, it just feels like I just get this like split second knowing. And a lot of times it'll happen and it'll be like 3 seconds, but I could go on explaining it for 2 hours. Like
Wow.
it's weird.
And to like somebody that's not familiar with all this or new to it, it might feel like their own inner voice, right?
1000%.
Yeah,
Yes.
'cause that's what I've been realizing. It's like all those times where, my inner voice said, like I went over to one side of the road, and then my inner voice said, I thought it was an inner voice said, go back over here, and then go up that big hill, And so I go up that big hill, and there was this, the huge feather that I needed to see that I had asked for, and I was like,
Mhm.
that's an example. Like that was not my inner voice. That was somebody else saying, hey, we're giving you the sign. You're going to go back over where you just came across from and go up that huge hill that you really don't want to go up. And
That you really don't want to do, but you got to
yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, here I am going. And I'm like, oh my gosh, at the top of that hill is that the biggest feather I've ever seen. And I was like, what? And so for people, I just like to say, it was hard for me to distinguish the difference between my inner voice and then somebody else, a spirit.
And I think you can, like anything else, right? It's like a muscle. So you
Yeah.
just constantly have to work it to really understand. And some people are really good at fine tuning it, right? It's just like you're channeling it,
Yeah.
tuning into an FM radio. Well, 96.3, I'll get this information. 98.7, I'll get,
Right.
this
Yes.
information over here. I think it's just really getting very clear with, I want to welcome this energy. And it's literally that simple. If people are like, I want to have a clear line of communication to Archangel Michael, and you meditate with it,
Right.
see how it sits in your body, see what you start feeling like, hearing like
Yeah.
knowing like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But for me, I don't know that I ever really paid too much attention or time in really honing that. I think it just more or less sounds like an inner voice.
Yeah.
But I know I've discovered over time, because that gets really confusing, especially when you're first starting out. Like,
Mhm.
why do I feel like this? Why am I thinking this random thought? It's
Right.
probably not you. It's
Right.
probably something else.
Right.
Right. So you have to differentiate between your independent thought versus, maybe a channeled thought, or maybe you're picking up on emotion from the neighbor next door because they're going
Yes.
through something. I think that's probably the most difficult thing to navigate, is really understanding. And that's why it always starts with number one. It
Yeah.
always starts with you. Having that self awareness is
Mhm.
going to be your guiding light.
Yes, because like I talked to you before, somebody that spent thousands of dollars and seeked out, so much different guidance because I just wanted help, just wanted to know that my path was, clear. We have everything that we need within us. We have everything we have, yeah, everything that we need within us. And so it's just nice to be able to talk to other people that are going through similar things.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
that's my message to everybody is like, we have everything we need within us. We just have to listen for sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's
that's
not easy to
amazing.
do.
Go. It's not easy. Not easy.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so all right. So then how have your gifts progressed?
I think this is it's interesting. They haven't progressed like I thought they would,
Okay.
I guess is my first sentiment. I thought, and I felt forced a lot too, which is really weird to say now because of where I started from and how intense it was. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, obviously, I need to be inside of some element of spirituality. Obviously, I need to be a trauma coach or
Right.
do something like this. And I did try to go down these different paths, but it came with a lot of aversion
Hmm.
and it didn't feel fluid and it didn't feel natural. It felt like I was just kind of going against the grain and I really didn't understand why. I didn't understand. And I think the effects for me, I got super into understanding ETs. I got super into trying to understand these other modalities and different elements of spiritual awakenings and experiences that other people have had. And so I had, which I've told you about, a real life abduction experience and like not of my physical body, but of my subconscious. And I think you said there's something on Gaia that talks about this
Well,
also.
girl, I'm gonna have full body chills right now because I know that that's true too. That's been happening with lots of people. And the reality of it is that we're aliens to those aliens. Now,
Yes.
I understand all that so much. I like that. That's an example of downloads where I'm like, oh my gosh, I know that there's different levels. It's like we're at school, you know,
Yes.
and when you pass, you're at a certain level. And then you can, you have to pass your tests on Earth in order to move up. You can't go up until you pass those tests,
Yes.
and
Thousand percent.
yeah, and that you and I, we might be older souls than maybe our parents, one of our parents, or we've been around longer. There's so many things that I'm just like mind blown by that I'm like, how do I know all that to be? I mean, like I'm just like, I know that's true. I mean, if I would have thought about that back in the day or heard that back in the day, I'd been like, that's wild. That's not.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
That's
So
the hardest. That's the
yeah,
hardest part is to come to terms with that reality, that truth that we uncover, right? But I love that you said all of that because it is all of that. And we talk about reincarnation, we talk about
yeah,
past lives, like
yeah.
that's a whole nother episode I'd love to dive
Right.
into because I feel very old, right? I feel very old for my age. I've always felt that way. I felt older than my parents, like all
Yeah,
that stuff. So I think there's just certain cues that we could
yeah,
talk about that really,
right.
pings
Yeah,
for the types of souls that live here. But as I'm saying this, I went through this abduction experience and it was so disturbing for me. And I totally shut down for a very long time. And I immersed myself almost in 3D land because I was craving grounding. Like
yeah,
I was craving not to live in the ethers anymore because it was scary and it was unknown and it was weird and blah. Um,
yes,
I just really dove into understanding more of like the human business entrepreneurial job earn money aspect.
yeah.
And so I'm still there in in what's the word I'm looking for, like relatively speaking I'm still in that space,
Yeah.
but what has happened is that this essence of me going through an awakening, having the childhood upbringing in the background that I've had, is
Mhm.
bringing me to an all-encompassing understanding of what my purpose here is on this planet. And it is, truth be told, the complete opposite of anything I had ever imagined for myself.
Really?
Yes, and I think that that's very hard when like there's plenty of people out here that feel like they're very multi-talented or multifaceted and they're like I could do fucking anything really.
Yeah.
And for a while I grew up in like theater and music and everybody's like, oh well, you're going to be a famous singer, this is which is who you are, this is what you're going to do. I was accepting a lot of what people were projecting onto me because of
Yes.
what I was capable of,
Yes.
but that really wasn't necessarily my truth. And the funny thing is that people were like, well, you've got it figured out from a young age, you already know what you're going to do.
And you're
And I
like,
did not.
yeah, you're like,
Did
that
not.
does not seem
I
right
did
at
not.
all. Yeah.
No.
Right.
Um, and so I think it was going through the process of letting go of the labels that other people were putting on me,
Mhm.
moving more into something that felt in alignment. And again, when you go through spiritual experiences like this, the natural pull for a lot of us is, well, I'm going to be a spiritual guide, or
Mhm.
I'm I'm gonna, lean into doing mediumship or becoming a psychic or whatever it is. And a lot of times that is true.
Right.
But there's also a subset of individuals where it might not be, or
Yeah.
it's not that it's not. It's not that I don't use my intuition every day. It's not that I don't feel through certain things when I'm in front of someone or a client with business. I think it's more or less, it feels like this awesome set of tools in my tool bag that I
Yeah.
get to apply in a real world scenario. Like that's how my spiritual awakening, I feel like, has evolved. And I'm
Okay.
still trying to figure it out. And I think we do until we die,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yep.
think it constantly evolves and we have to allow it to do that,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that. Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to go back to you touched on MS a little bit. Do you feel like MS has been a part of this, a big part of this story? What are your thoughts? And can you just explain your experience with that and how you've gone through the medical system? And do you mind talking about that?
No, I don't mind talking at all. I actually wanted to get into this space through my awakening at some
Yeah.
point because I thought I had something to say. I mean, I do have something to say, but I wanted to give people hope who had been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. So, like I said, I was diagnosed, excuse me, in 2009. I was 22 at the time, and I probably said wrong ages. And anyway, I'm bad with math, but here we go. So, 2009, 22, I was diagnosed. It was, it was really abrupt and sudden. And I felt like I went numb from the neck down. Like I couldn't wash myself. I couldn't go to the bathroom. I couldn't. And this didn't happen all at once. It happened over the course of 4 days.
Okay.
But I didn't know what was going on. My mom thought it was a pinched nerve,
Right.
whatever. So I go through rounds of doctors over and over, felt like a lab rat for the better part of whatever month that was in that year.
Mhm.
And I finally got a lumbar puncture. For those of you who don't know, it's just that like the big needle that they stick in your back to extract your spinal
Like
fluid.
spinal tap almost.
Yeah,
Some. Okay.
similar to
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
And they have to run that through a bunch of tests to confirm your diagnosis. And so they did that. And the first neurologist that I saw, this was back in New Jersey, the first neurologist that I saw told me that you are going to, this is such a bad initial exacerbation, you will be in a wheelchair by the time you're 25. So obviously, I'm 22 at the time. That felt like a death sentence.
Yes.
Right? And I'm like, I am so ambitious. I have so much that I want to do. I was a waitress at the time. Like, what do you mean? I can't work. I can't do anything. Like, what? So I also absolutely think that was a part of my awakening too, right? And then I started to dive in a lot deeper going into year 2 of the disease because I was going it I was going through with taking modern medication because I feel like that's just what we do. It's the natural progression. You can get on cotopaxone, you can go
Mhm.
on beta seron, you can go on all these different things, but each comes with its own set of symptoms. And what had happened is that the medicine was making me feel worse than the disease did. So I was like, I cannot do this to myself. And at some point, as I'm going through, because at the time it was RRMS, right? Relapsing, remitting,
Okay.
multiple sclerosis. So that
Okay.
means you go through an exacerbation and then you go into remission. And
Okay.
if you progress, it turns into progressive
Okay.
MS, and then you're in a wheelchair and whatever.
Okay.
So in my mind at the time, I was so young and so stubborn that I told myself that I will not commit to this story. And even at the time, I'm saying it now, I didn't know what I was saying to myself
Right.
then, but I was so strong willed
Yes.
that I was like, I cannot allow this to affect how I'm going to live out my life.
Mm.
And I think it was that narrative that I adopted early where
Yeah.
I didn't want people to feel bad for me. I didn't want people to pat me on the back or make, feel sorry for me and my case and all this other stuff. Like I didn't want it
Yeah.
because that means that they were leaning into the narrative that I was fighting so hard against.
Yes.
So, because the medicine made me feel worse than the disease did, because my mental state got stronger through all of the adversity, it led me into the path of finding alternative medicine. What else can I do to help myself regain mobility,
Yes.
regain vision, regain feeling in my hands? What can I do to regain all of this back in a more natural way because these medicines aren't working?
Right.
And that also
Were you
opened
just
up.
getting worse then? Worse?
It got better and then it got worse and then it
Right.
got better and then it got worse. So it was a
Right.
true relapsing
Yeah.
remitting MS, and
Okay.
I have had it through, well, and I'll get there too. I've had it most of that whole stint in my 20s into my early 30s until Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I'll talk about that.
Okay.
Um, but I think going through that whole like roller coaster ride of like modern medicine, not modern medicine, mental, stability, figuring
Mhm.
things out, and then finding alternative medicine and introducing that, changing your thoughts, changing your mind, change your life, change your story.
Mhm.
Watching a lot of documentaries, reading a lot of books, going through the Walls Protocol, all the things, right? And then that also was a part of my awakening in a very different way.
I bet.
And then that led me to Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I absolutely love. He is a beautiful merriment of who I feel like I am today, which is that dichotomist. I am a dichotomist. I'm not all about the metaphysics. I'm also about the science when the
Yeah.
science makes sense and the metaphysics make sense.
Love that.
I think you need both
Yeah.
in order to understand the whole. And
Yes.
so Dr. Joe Dispenza is a really great individual that explains this in the most beautiful way that feels like a really good point of truth and consistency. And he was all about the mind. And what I learned from him through, and I bought his whatever he does through Gaia. He
Yeah.
does a series that you can actually buy. So I
Mhm.
did that. And it was basically like talking to like your mind talking to itself. And that's how he healed himself in his story. Same thing, doctors thought he got in a really bad bicycle accident. Doctor said, "You're never going to walk again." He's just like, "The fuck, I'm not." Watch this. And so it was just really badass story.
Yeah. So
And
then
so it
he
was,
was like, I tell my mind to tell my back to tell my, I mean, like he goes through it and like every day he would like, and he started to believe it and it started transpiring like that. Or
yes,
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
exactly what happened. And so, and he teaches this in
Yeah.
his seminars and
Okay.
stuff. So I went through all of this, and I will never forget the first time I had to put all of that to the test, and the last time that I experienced a sincere exacerbation. And this was like over 5 years ago, right? Where I was feeling really dizzy and weird, like I was going to collapse in a Walmart
Mm.
and out loud. And I did not care what people thought or what they were thinking because everybody's out here fighting their own battles,
Right.
right? I just knew I had to say it out loud. And I was like, no, we're not doing this anymore. This is not your truth. This is not your reality. You don't suffer from things like this anymore. We are going to be in a constant state of healing and realigning what our reality is going to be. And MS is not your story. That is not what your narrative is. And that is not what you're going to lean into. You have a lot of things that you're going to do and accomplish in your life. And this isn't a part of it. And
Gosh.
I said all this out loud, right? And people are looking at me like I'm crazy in the produce section. And I'm like, I don't really fucking
Yeah, I
care
don't
because
fucking care. I'm not gonna see it in
I
you
have
anyway.
to.
Yeah.
But I did. I said it out loud with such conviction,
Good for
and it
you.
was the last time that I had to deal with anything like that. And I mean, God, I run, walk, whatever, hike,
Yeah.
whatever. I'm 40 years old. I'm
Yeah.
far away from any wheelchair,
And you
right?
still have stressful situations in your life and that doesn't exasperate it anymore.
Correct. Well, you have to recalibrate, right?
Yeah.
You have to see through a certain lens, and you have to. I mean, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't like a one and done. We
No.
constantly have to work on our story. We
Yeah.
constantly have to exercise that muscle, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I figured out how to exercise the muscle for me in a way that makes sense, so I was able to overcome it.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. So powerful. And it just like
Yeah.
to show you like how important our thoughts and our words and what
Oh,
we say out loud, they freaking
yes.
matter so much more than we understand. Like our
That's
words are our wand, you know? They
yes.
and we can rewrite our story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And isn't that so beautiful
I
that we
mean that.
have the ability to do? We are so powerful.
So do you feel like for me, my everybody has their own spiritual awakening stories. I had a complete collapse basically of my life before mine actually before I was able to like understand things and see things for what they were. Did you feel like you had to let go of any parts of who you were or have any, I mean, I know you went through really hard stuff, but was that conscious like in your mind? Did you know, like, did you feel like, okay, once I made this hard decision and I did what was best for me? I was gifted with something more. Do you feel?
Yeah. And I'm trying to actually provide some real examples. I I definitely think there is a death that happens within yourself, and I wouldn't even narrow it down to one. I think the more awareness we hone in on, the more gifts we're able to unravel within ourselves,
Mhm.
the more other elements of a lower vibrational energy starts to fall away. It cannot exist with
Yes.
you
Right.
because you're leveling up. You're just arriving in a different place. And I think that is the hardest thing, is to let go of relationships, marriages, family, like not just friends, but family members,
Yeah.
saying it's really detrimental to me to hold on to this. And the only way that I know how to hold on to this is to continue living and acting in the same way that they've understood me to act, right? I've always reacted in this way. I've always been this person. I've always, fit inside this label. And so
Yeah.
that's how they know me. That's what they're comfortable with. But that's not who I am anymore. Right.
Mhm.
So if I let go of that and I allow myself to grow the way that I feel innately I need to grow, it means that it's creating enough friction between me and this other relationship that it just doesn't feel good anymore. It just doesn't align. And you have to consciously, more often than not, say, I have to bow out gracefully. I
Yes.
appreciate you and the time that we've had together. You
Mhm.
were a very important part of this season in my life, but you cannot, I can't stay here.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
sticking up for yourself and
Mhm.
what you feel like what you need and where you need to go and where you need to grow. But I mean, yeah, I've dealt with that. I've been blacklisted from an entire organization that I was working with in 2020, who are very Christian based, very biblical, and that was not my truth, but it was part of their
Right.
culture, which I think was very counterintuitive for such a large organization, but whatever.
Right.
But
Right.
I mean, shitstorms. Shit
Yeah.
buckets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, like really hard things that you're like at the time, you're like, why the fuck do I have to go through something like this?
Yes.
Why is this? Oh, yeah, this feels so hard. Why is this always happening to me? It's like, because we don't want you working at corporate. Get out.
Yeah. Yeah. Get out now.
Because you keep making the wrong decisions.
Yeah. Over and
So I
over.
have to force all this stuff on you, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when you look back and you see, okay, I was thrown into that situation for a reason, and it was that short for a reason. Like I
Yes.
learned my lesson,
Right.
and I was fired or pushed out or, was too sensitive and quit.
Right.
You know?
And those are all valid reasons.
Well, for anybody out there that is, going through their messy middle, who's struggling, because I've found, through the Clair Diaries, there's a lot of people out there who are alone and who have not been able to speak their truths for one reason or another. They're not there yet. And, so they feel very lonely. So if there's one thing that you could tell anybody about, what they're going through, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a tall order. Um, I think just keep trying to find the people that make you feel good. And they might not be in person yet, right? Like maybe it's because you stumbled upon this podcast.
Right.
Maybe it's an influencer or a content creator that you follow on Instagram. You'll find people in the comments that are saying crazy things, but some are saying the things that you feel are true too.
Right.
And it's really just about reaching out to people. And a lot of it is just efforting to build your community, whatever that looks like and however that looks like. I know a lot of younger generations are finding their community online. A
Right.
lot of middle or older generations, we're still congregating in person. We're going to networking groups and things like that. And just because you sign up for one thing or another, and you know this really well, right,
Right.
Stacey, that just because you sign up for something doesn't mean that they're your fucking people.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a hard lesson to learn.
So
Yeah.
in through that though, you figure out, you get very attuned to what your truth is, what feels good in your body, and and that's the thing too, like when you meet someone, it's very easy, it feels very cyclical, there's an energetic exchange that happens, that it just flows. And
Yes.
pay attention to that. I
Yeah.
think, like you have these big antennas,
Right.
especially these empaths out here, like you.
Yeah.
And
Your
it's
body
just
tells you
giving,
right away.
yes, and
Yeah.
it's just giving yourself permission, allowing your and you just getting to know yourself. And maybe you have to be a little bit more of a hermit, and that's
Right.
also okay. I know I am a hermit, And I was through my awakening too, because
Yes.
that's how I was able to find like what felt like truth to me, what it felt like in my body when I confronted something that wasn't for me. And I think that's probably what I would say is just to spend time with self so
Mhm.
you can pick up on and learn what feels good and
Yeah,
right for you versus what doesn't feel good and right for you. And
absolutely.
it's really just about understanding you really,
Yeah.
really well.
Yeah, it's a great way to protect your peace when you're going through a lot of changes that are, hard to explain to others, but also are massive. And so you just need to protect your peace because you just don't know when the wrong person is gonna, become a part of your life. And then it just feels even more hard. You're like, oh my gosh, one more fucking hard thing I have to go through. This sucks, but it happens. But so that's why we're all feeling alone though, because I think we're all protecting our peace. We're getting prepared for whatever is around the corner. And that's the other big thing. It's like, I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like I'm like, I had a friend say this one time and it resonated on the edge of a cliff. I can't really see what's out there, and I'm
That's
like fearful to jump, but I'm fucking doing it anyway. And I just hope that my wings are going to fly when I
That's fair.
jump.
I love that. It's so funny. I think I was in a meeting with Annie about business, and I'm like, what the fuck? I am petrified. And she's like, well, are we gonna jump? Or are we gonna jump? I'm like, we're fucking jumping. Like, what else are we gonna do? I'm just scared. I'm letting you know. Like, it's still scary out here, but we're gonna do it anyway.
Right. But it's almost like a knowing that it's just like a knowing that that things are going to be good on the other side. And then you just got to
Ye-
take that leap
yeah.
of faith.
Yes, for
Yeah.
sure. Because I mean, there's that we've always been protected and provided for at the end of the day, even in the midst of the shit,
Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
something still felt like it was working out in our favor, or something was still protecting us, or it could have gone so much worse in
Right.
a different
Yes.
light. But we
Yeah.
were woke, somebody was put in our path, or we were
Right.
woken up to something, or
Right. Right.
So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think about where I am right now, just recently divorced, lots of things happened and I'm really at the best place of my life, even though I have no clue of what's ahead of me. I just have this knowing that it's going to be amazing.
oh, I love
Just so,
that.
right? I know, and
Yeah,
that's what keeps me going. It's like, yeah, I just have this knowing, and I'm so grateful for that because, man, once you like let go of fear and competition and ego and things like that, life is just so amazing,
yeah,
really.
absolutely.
And
It
we have
really is.
so much more to live. So I am just so grateful for your friendship. And I'm grateful that I met you at that random networking event because I hardly ever do networking events. But you and I hit it off right away. And that's just a sign that you and I were meant to be on each other's paths for sure. And so I'm just grateful
Yes,
for you. And I just love you. And thank you
I
so
love
much for
you.
being a part of my show. And you
Oh
definitely have
my
to come back because we
Oh,
have,
please. I would love to. Let's
yeah,
talk about all the things.
yes, we have to talk about, when you, the whole
Oh,
yes, all that.
yes,
We have to
we
talk
do.
about that
Okay.
because we have lots that we didn't discuss. So, all right, girl. Well, I love you tons, and thanks again.
Love you too. Thank you for having me.
All right, girl. Bye.
Bye.